Hello everybody, I look extremely orange right now. I'm gonna have to fix this in post, and I don't like doing that. Well, I could try and fix it on my camera, but I don't like messing with the settings on my camera because I'm terrified I'm never gonna be able to fix them. So I'll try my best to fix it in post, but I can already tell I'm gonna need to do some color correcting. Do I have like a white, something white that I could fix the white balance with? I have like a paper towel. Will that work? That help at all? Is this helping at all? I don't think so. Hello everybody, welcome back to the School on a Boat podcast, where we are once again not talking about the school on a boat. We'll get back to talking about on deck, don't worry. But I have some more ideas that I thought I'd explore and, keep everyone on their toes so people don't just assume that we only talk about on deck on this podcast, although that is mainly what we will talk about. But I wanted to expand it to like general Disney Channel topics. And today's topic is Descendants, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I am currently drinking the Monster Java or Java Monster Irish cream flavor. I've been drinking more Monster lately, which is probably not good for my health, but I've been saving the tabs because I've been wanting to use the tabs for crafting. I've been kind of crafty lately. I've been really getting into crafting, let me just say. It's been a little hobby of mine to do with my hands, especially because I'm starting to really get back into my groove of watching Disney Channel sitcoms, which obviously I love and always do love, but I feel like there's a little bit of time there, especially when I was watching the every Disney Channel original movie. I was like kind of burnt out on watching Disney Channel because I was also watching Good Luck Charlie at the time. My Good Luck Charlie video finally came out. Yay, we'll discuss why this is a week late in a little bit. I promise I have a good excuse. But yeah, I've been kind of really getting back into wanting to watch sitcoms more often now that I think I'm finally done with that Good Luck Charlie video. It's kind of like reinvigorated my interest and excitement for Disney Channel sitcoms. So I want to get back into my Disney Channel sitcom bag, and I figured I would want to have a little craft to do while I do it. So I've been, having a lot of fun crafting, specifically with like candy beads and like peyote stitching or whatever it's called, peyote weave. Yeah, I think it's technically a form of weaving. And I've been making some pretty fun stuff. I made myself a wallet. Oh my gosh, I actually have it right here. Okay, it's very shabby because it's the first thing I've ever made. But look, I made myself a little wallet. It's made completely out of beads. For those who are just listening, it's like kind of like the size of my hand. Yeah, it's the size of my hand, and it is a wallet essentially with like a little flap, and it's gray and black and clear, and it has like little skulls on it. And this has been like such a fun project for me. This is a lot of beads, even though it's kind of a small project compared to some of the stuff I've seen on the internet. And it took a lot of effort out of me. As you can see, I've just used a safety pin as like the closure because I made like a little triangle flap over it, and I have a safety pin keeping it closed. So anyways, that's been a really fun craft for me. I also got sick. I got horribly sick. It was a real bummer. A real true bummer, me getting sick. I had the flu. I'm pretty sure it was the flu. I'm still recovering from it, which is why my voice maybe sounds a little bit raspier, a little bit lower in tone. This is why this video is actually a week late. This podcast episode is supposed to come out last Tuesday, but I was in the thralls and I hadn't recorded something. Normally I try to pre-record stuff, but right when I was supposed to record this episode, I was really just starting to get sick, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just a cold and I'll get over it in a few days. No, it got worse. It got really bad. And so I'm recording this a week late, so I apologize to the people who look forward to this. I don't know if anyone does, but I like having the schedule. I've been really enjoying having a schedule for myself. And so I'm going to try my best to keep it going. But yes, this episode's a week late. I sound a bit weird. I might also not look the best. Okay. My nose is probably super red because, again, I was sick, and it might look a little shiny because I've absolutely been lathering myself in Aquaphor. Just absolutely dousing my entire body in Aquaphor because it's been so dry. It's that classic, like, winter becoming early spring kind of weather where it's a little cold, but like not too cold, and it's a little warm, but not too warm, but really, really freaking dry. So I've been I've been dry this past month essentially. So yeah, I apologize if I may sniffle a little bit throughout the episode. Again, I'm recovering. I've recorded at least 2 things while being sick. I finally finished my Cinderella story video. That was a vaulted video. I think I had like a handful of videos that I had not finished before I officially wanted to upload the DCOM series, and they were all like half done videos that I just put on the back burner. Some I've basically completely scrapped, like entirely. But like I put them on the back burner and was like, either I'm gonna just like not finish these videos or I'm going to return to them like in a year. And that's basically what's happened. So I finally finished my Cinderella story video, but half of it, like exactly half of it, was recorded while I was very poorly and ill. So that's a bit awkward, but I also recorded a video that I'm currently editing, and it's going to be for the side channel. It's going to be another 5 sauce video. I said I wasn't going to be uploading as much 5 sauce videos, but this month is going to be an exception. So I apologize for that. Don't feel like you have to unsubscribe or whatever. Just don't watch them. If you're not interested, just don't watch them. I'm okay if you don't watch them, but I am pretty much after this month. I think I'll have it out of my system because I've finally finished reviewing all their albums. So yeah, we'll deal with that when we deal with that. But yes, I'm very excited to finally be back in recording again and feeling not sick anymore. It really derailed so much of my life. I'm so behind on my studies. I have so many assignments I have to do, and my teachers have been very, very kind and have given me extensions for things. And next week is spring break, which is very exciting. So I might have to record next week's episode at my father's house, because I will be going to visit him. I like to visit my father. We have a good relationship. So yeah, I recorded the visuals of my Good Luck Charlie video at his house because I was visiting him for Christmas, and I was like, I'm here for Christmas. I'm just gonna do it. I could have waited maybe like a week or two and scripted everything and then just like sat down and recorded. But I was like, he won't mind if I'm just here recording in his house, and so I did that. So I might do that again for next week's episode, but you guys are used to seeing my dad's house, I think, on camera. But speaking of, this is my new set. I've recorded, this is the second video I'm ever recording in my little corner of posters. I don't really like the layout. Like this Spider-Man poster, which, by the way, fun fact, was found in a dumpster at a Walgreens from my friend. My friend was at a Walgreens just like buying stuff, and they were taking down all of the promo for Spider-Man No Way Home, and this was like Spider-Man No Way Home promo. Sorry, I hit my elbow against the wall and it's loud, so I apologize for that echo. But he found this, like the person working there was like taking it down and putting it in the trash can, and so he grabbed it out of the trash can for me and gave it to me. So to this day, I still have this Spider-Man No Way Home like promotional poster that was given to like a Walgreens to put up, and I still have it on my wall. And I don't like how prominent it is because I like Spider-Man, obviously. It's why I have the poster on my wall, but I feel like I should swap it with there's some better posters I feel like that I've ended up putting on the floor. So, we might rearrange this a little bit. And also I'm going to be moving soon, so who knows how long this set will be for. But I kind of like being surrounded by posters. I feel like it's very fun and very quirky. And of course we got the big 5 sauce one here. Gotta rep 5 sauce as always. We also got the vinyl down here in the corner. So anyways, yeah, I'm really enjoying this this setup, but I'm hoping to batch record a lot of stuff before I have to rip it all down because I'll have to move eventually. So I thought I'd have a segment where I discuss things that have appeared in my mind throughout in between podcast episodes, and I've written them on a sticky note. I'll show you guys. This is a sticky note that I've written on in class because a lot of these are themed to class. Sometimes I feel a little bit embarrassed talking about school and the fact that I'm in college, because it kind of sounds like I'm like in high school. I'm like a little baby talking about class and studying and school and stuff. And I'm almost done with my degree, so hopefully I won't be yapping about school too often anymore. But I have 2 main thoughts that have occurred to me throughout the week that have really been I've been ruminating on, and I kind of want to vent about them, so maybe you guys can share in my struggle. Thought of the week, I guess I can call it. I'm a big fan of the Jordan Teresa podcast, Voice Notes of Jordan Teresa. She's great, and she kind of has like I think she calls it thoughts of the week. She does a very similar thing, so I don't want to just outright steal her thing. But these are my thoughts of the week, random thoughts. Random thought number one is that headphones, or like, earphones or whatever, specifically even noise canceling headphones, should be on college packing lists. It should be a required purchase. And I say this because my neighbor, for the longest time, he's kind of stopped doing it now, which is a huge blessing to me. And I don't want to jinx it. I'm going to knock on wood. I don't want to jinx this. But previously, at the beginning of the semester, he would play music so loud. Just so loud. And it was really bugging me because he has very bad taste in music. No offense to anybody out there, but it seems like people who obnoxiously play music really loudly and disturb other people with how loud they play their music, they almost always have bad taste in music. Like no one's ever done that and I've been like, oh, that's a good song, I'm gonna like listen. It's always been like, this is a garbagey song after garbagey song. Oh, and it's always people who like only listen to like 5 songs. Do you know a person like that, or are you like this? Because this is fine, but it just sometimes gets on. If you're not like choosing to listen to music this way, it can get on your nerves. But there are some people out there who have like 5 songs that they just listen to. Sorry, I kicked the tripod. They have like 5 songs that they listen to just on repeat. And like I was starting to recognize the songs and the artists and stuff. Like I was getting really upset because I do a lot of reading for my degree, and I just couldn't focus because I was constantly getting distracted by this guy's loud music. And so I have a pair of overhead headphones, and they have a noise canceling setting. So it's not perfect, but they have like a setting that you can switch on that makes it's supposed to block out noise. And man, has that been a huge help because it would go on for hours at random points in the night, and I would just put them on and I'd be fine. So that's like the main reason why I wrote down this note. But I also have a ulterior reason why I wrote down this note. And that is, I am sick and tired of people playing shit out loud in public spaces. Specifically the library. This has happened one too many times in the library to where I'm sick and tired of it and I want it to stop. I will buy someone a pair of earphones for them so they can listen to whatever they want to listen to and not disturb me, because the library especially, that's a place for quietness and tranquility. If I want to listen to music and I want like loud music playing, I'll put my headphones in. But if I want silence, I want to be guaranteed that I can get that silence at the library. I don't know why I'm doing the politician hand. I want silence at the library, where like your thumb is like pressed up against your fingers. I don't know why that's a very politician hand movement. But anyways, yeah, I have multiple times now been absolutely disturbed by some guy who sits kind of close to me, which is fine. It's a public space. You're kind of expecting people to kind of sit kind of close to you, especially because it's not like a huge facility or anything, a huge library. It's a very small library, so I'm okay with people, being near me in the library. You just gotta mind your own business and be quiet. But this, multiple times now this has happened, where some dude has sat down in the same, like, kind of in my range of view, in my vicinity, and has watched TikTok out loud with no earbuds or nothing. I understand phones don't have the headphone jack anymore, so you need wireless earbuds if you're going to use your phone, and they're expensive, so if you don't have them, you're just out of luck. Go watch TikTok somewhere else, is my thought process. I think what the problem is that this is a person who's trying to study and is like trying to like focus on their work, but they just keep getting distracted by their phone. They just keep like impulsively just like grabbing their phone and just like starting to scroll. And my thought process is, don't kid yourself. Stop kidding yourself. If you genuinely can't just sit down in silence and do your work, then go outside. Please. That's all I beg of you. That's one of my controversial takes. I don't know if it is. I feel like people are just too comfortable being loud and disturbing out loud in public. I feel like people are too comfortable with that. I don't know if it's remnants of the pandemic. People were so used to just being stuck in their rooms so they could just play stuff out loud because they were by themselves, and they forget now that like when you're surrounded by other people don't want to hear that shit. That's my thoughts on that. I feel like a loser for ranting about this a lot of the time, because it's like, just let people listen just do their thing, you know? And to the most part, like outside, like if I'm walking down the street, I don't care about the loudness or the disturbance or whatever, because we're outside. I'm expecting there to be noise outside, and I'm not outwardly like disturbed by, as they call, noise pollution. I think there's a lot to unpack there, the concept of noise pollution and how it's usually a lot of lower income people who are like demonized for being loud. So like this is why I don't really complain about this that often. I just feel like there's a time and place. Okay? And you should be courteous of the people around you. And then to be fair, and to give my neighbor some credit, he may not know that he's playing music really loudly. He may not know that it's disturbing people around him, because it's not like I've gone to him and been like, hey, can you maybe turn the music down? It's a bit loud. And maybe if I did do that, he would stop. Or maybe someone has, and that's why I don't hear it as often. Knock on wood. But it doesn't change the fact that it does affect me. So my next random thought is also similar to noise, which is kind of weird. It's actually eerily prescient, because recently I'm in a nonfiction prose class, and we read Seneca's On Noise, and it's from like 500 AD or something like that, and it's about how he's like constantly being disturbed by noise, like just like everyday people just being too loud while he's trying to like sit in silence or whatever. And he was a stoic, so his whole thing was that like I can't be mad at things I can't control. And I felt really called out from that getting assigned because of my my random thoughts that I've written down for this episode. But my second thought was drinks with ice in them should be banned. Specifically from places of studying or places of learning or places of focus in general, because damn, is ice in a water bottle so loud. It's so loud. And this was never something I noticed until I'm in a poetry class right now, and I'm not that big on poetry personally. I know I talk about like music lyrics and stuff a lot in my 5 Sauce videos and some other videos, but like I'm actually not super well trained in the world of poetry. So me taking a poetry class now is a big step for me, and I'm like really learning a lot. And so it's kind of a hard class for me is what I'm trying to say, this poetry class. And there are people in this class, multiple people on the same day, who everyone has their water bottle, which is cool. Gotta stay hydrated. I appreciate that everyone, you know, understands that and has their water bottle or whatever, but they have ice in it. And when they go to drink it, especially if it's like half full, it's like so loud. It's like somebody like dumping a thing of rocks onto the floor, just like, it's so loud. And so disturbing. I feel like a bunch of people like whipped their head and were like, what is that sound? And it was just some really quiet lady with her Stanley cup, just like taking a sip. No, it must not have been a Stanley cup, because those have straws. So you would just hear the jingle of them like picking it up. But like the turning of like to drink it is so loud, and I shouldn't care. I should just tune it out and ignore it. But when we're trying to read a really complicated poem and the teacher is reading it out loud, very softly and very like, you know, poetic wise, you know, we're supposed to really be focusing in on the lyrics, on the you know, the rhyme scheme and the structure of the poem, and then someone's just like it sometimes is noticeable. And it really shouldn't bother me as much. I really should be more of a stoic about it and be like, I can't be mad at things I can't control. If I can't do anything about it, which I can't, I'm not going to be an asshole to tell someone like, stop drinking water, or stop putting ice in your water, stop having cold water. Like, I can't be one of those people. So I shouldn't care. I really should just let it roll off my back and just move on. And you know what? Now that I've kvetched about it, I think I can. So this might be a really wonderful exercise for all of us, to just get out our random thoughts of the week and just kind of be able to move forward from them. But anyways, let's talk about the actual topic we're here to talk about in today's video, which of course is Descendants. Now, Descendants is a series that I may or may not want to make a full video on one day. I think I'd have to definitely watch them again to maybe like, you know, get enough thoughts or get enough vigor within me to want to write a script about it. I have some vigor in me to talk about zombies. I said this in the last episode, I think, or in one of my episodes I discussed like, oh, maybe I want to make a podcast episode or a main channel video about, you know, about zombies. But that one is I feel like would be really, really heavily researched because I want to do it justice. I want to do justice by the series and breaking down my issues with it and the things I like about it and all that stuff. So that might not happen for a while. And I do have ideas for other decom videos. I mean, speaking of Dove Cameron, I have an idea for the movie Cloud 9. I did not really have an enthusiastic review of Cloud 9 from what I remember in my main decom video. I don't think I was super positive about it. I don't think I said it was bad, but I think I said it was like a checklist movie, which at the time I was watching it, which to be fair was maybe not in the most like best of circumstances. I was a bit tired, a bit exhausted. It probably wasn't like the most ideal setting to be watching that movie in. However, I eventually came around to having some like really interesting thoughts on it. So I think I will make a video on Cloud 9. I kind of want to make videos about random decoms that have kind of like, you know, bugged my mind a little bit. And then eventually move on to another realm. I guess I can spoil things on the podcast because it's kind of low stakes. I'm thinking about moving into talking about Nickelodeon stuff. People always mention Nickelodeon stuff to me and other network stuff to me. I get a lot of comments, people being like, I'm surprised you didn't talk about blank. And it's like, well, it's because within the structure of the video, that doesn't count. Like with my Cinderella story video, people were like, you didn't talk about Ella Enchanted. I thought that was interesting. And it's like, no. This isn't a video about every Cinderella retelling or adaptation because there's like over 100 of those, and another YouTuber that I really enjoy already made a video like that, which was one of the first places I had really seen people actually discussing the Cinderella story movies, because that's its own series. It's its own series of 6 films called the Cinderella story, like a Cinderella story like anthology series, and so that's what the video is about. And to be fair, I didn't really explain that super well, so I can understand why people would be like, oh, what about this one, or what about this one? But I get a lot of comments like that relating to Nickelodeon a lot of the time, where people are like, you should have talked about this sitcom. And I'm like, that's a Nickelodeon sitcom. You probably got it confused in your brain. This is something my dad does a lot. Whenever I talk about a series, he's like, and which one was that on again? Was that a Nickelodeon show? And I'm like, no, that was a Disney Channel show. That makes sense because he wasn't necessarily navigating through the channels with me. Back in the day, I was just kind of watching whatever, and I cycled between multiple channels pretty consistently, so it's easy for them to get like mixed up and muddied in people's minds, especially if you're just someone who watches videos about these like old kids television shows and you don't make them. When you make them, you kind of have a little bit more deep lore in your brain because you do research on them, versus if you're just watching videos, especially passively, which a lot of people do, which is fine. It's not a problem at all. It's just that if you're bold enough to comment and you don't realize that you're only like passively absorbing like half the information, there can be a little bit of a misfire in terms of communication that I see quite often in my comments. But I really don't mind. I'm just glad people are commenting in the first place. But anyways, I kind of want to move forward into talking about Nickelodeon stuff. I don't think people would mind too much because it kind of exists in a similar place in people's brains, so it wouldn't be too jarring of a different topic to talk about. Kind of like what I do with 5 Cells all the time. But you know, it's fine. It's whatever. We're talking about descendants. I have my notes on my phone today, which is a very rare occurrence. I usually write them down, but I was typing them on my computer actually, and I use Google Keep. I don't know if that's a common thing that people use, Google Keep, but I quite like Google Keep. Sorry, my chair has been squeaking. I don't know if you could hear that. But I like Google Keep because I can use it on my computer and on my phone. So I was typing on my computer my notes, and now I have them here because my laptop's over there and I don't want to go get it. I specifically want to talk about the hair in Descendants. I have scattered thoughts on Descendants, and this is the only one that I've really felt super intense about, and it's a perfect topic for a podcast episode because it is a kind of offhanded, more casual thing. I don't know if I have a full YouTube video's worth of material on this, and also I want to talk very casually about this topic. I don't want to get super deep on it. I just want to talk about something I've noticed and just how fun it is to notice. So the thing about the Descendants franchise is that it's such a fantastical, like whimsical series that you can really get very metaphorical with a lot of the like physical, tangible elements of the universe. I guess what I mean by that is that like their clothing and their makeup and their hair and like this, like the, you know, actual setting that they're in and stuff can be a lot more like theoretical and lean more towards like emotional feelings rather than like having to make sense in like a lore kind of way. This is a big problem that I think a lot of people love to point out and nitpick about when it comes to Descendants, with just how bizarre a lot of the choices are. They go more for like references, I guess, if that makes sense. They like intend to like lean more into like referencing the old classic animated Disney animated movies, which of course is like the whole basis of the lore for the entire series, right? Kind of riffing off just a little bit. Monster High, with having these all be like the children of these famous characters that you know from, you know, history and stuff. So since things are supposed to be references and in a lot of ways very like nods to the story being told, this is the kind of Kenny Ortega flair that he likes to do. A lot of this is present in High School Musical, which, by the way, my High School Musical video was supposed to come out, but then I got the flu, and now I don't know when I'm gonna find the time to be able to script a video like that. It'll happen eventually. I just, maybe a lot later than I originally intended. But a lot of what I wanted to talk about in that video was the kind of like little hints and references and like Easter eggs essentially that are present in High School Musical, in the sense of like trying to inform the audience even further of the movie's message through like their costuming and all that stuff, primarily because they can only do so much since it's a contemporary show or contemporary, you know, movie series. So they have to dress like how people dressed in the 2000s, you know what I mean? But they still do a lot with that. And in Descendants, because these movies are also directed by Kenny Ortega, they can really just indulge in the funky weirdness and just go all out and not have to have like a tangible grasp on reality. And I think that bugs a lot of people, and it's something I've really grown to love about Descendants, and I've just like slowly become a huge fan of the Descendants franchise. When I was kind of a hater, a confused outsider at the beginning, and then a little bit of a hater, and then now I'm a fan. So it's nice to see my opinions evolve into something more positive over time. So I truly think that the ridiculous wigs, I'll say ridiculous wigs, it's a big thing that people like to point out, especially with the fourth movie. Man, the wigs are especially bad in the fourth movie, but we won't be talking about it. We're just going to be talking about the trilogy. Mal and Evie are the primary characters that I want to talk about in this series, because I do think they're the ones that apply to this the most. I will mention Uma, and I will also mention Audrey, but obviously they're only in 2 out of the 3 movies, and they're secondary characters, they're not main characters. To be fair, Evie isn't much of doesn't get a lot of time on screen as much either. I kind of wish we got a decent amount of like core 4, you know, dynamics with these characters, but like outside of Mal, the other characters really do feel like secondary characters in terms of like how much development they're given. They're given enough, especially in the first movie, but over time, obviously, I feel like Mal and her story is kind of what the series is about. When I wonder if this show was like a TV show of some kind, if we would have gotten more development of like some of the secondary characters in a way that would have been more satisfying for me. I know there is the animated show, if I remember correctly. Also, like Once Upon a Time is basically the TV show version of Descendants before Descendants came out. So I guess it doesn't really, you know, that's kind of its own thing. It's kind of its own realm to look at things from. But yes, I want to talk about how the hair evolves throughout the movies, because they do change between movies, and because they're wigs, they can kind of change it frequently throughout the film in a way that's actually kind of interesting and cool, and I think it was intentional, and the use of color and all of that is like informative to like the character's mental state and their actions throughout the movie, which again, like in an everyday film where you're concerned about like, you know, things making sense in like a contemporary world or whatever, it's not really something you can do too much. There's a couple of movies that get away with it, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or maybe Scott Pilgrim, but a movie like this that's super fantastical and doesn't give a fuck if it is like slightly different or whatever is a cool it's a cool place to be able to do something like this and explore within. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. I was supposed to shake this. It's getting sweeter as I drink it. yeah, I think all of some of the sweet bits are at the bottom. That's okay. I'll deal with that. Maybe I can like put a stick in there and stir it or whatever. I'm talking about my Java monster, by the way. So I want to start with Mal. Let's just go through Mal throughout the 3 movies, and then we'll go through Evie, and then we'll sprinkle in mentions of Uma and Audrey. So Mal, I think, is the one where her actual plot is given to her hair. That's mainly also why I want to talk about this, because it's an actual plot point, or at least like an element of the film that is like discussed in the movie, is her changing her hair, and that's specifically in the second movie. But in the first movie, we get established what their like basic standard like hair is supposed to look like. Mal's is very interesting because it's kind of like a bob, and she kind of has these like longer tendrils in the front. Speaking of 2016, this is an extremely 2016 movie. I only say that because people are really nostalgic for 2016 right now. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, take me back to 2016. I never want to go back there. That was one of the worst times in my life. I am not nostalgic for 2016 at all whatsoever. I got a little bit of nostalgia for 2014, a little bit back there, which is a funny thing because it's only 10 years ago. When I made my 5 sauce video, I was like really in my, wow, times sure have changed bag, because it was the 10-year anniversary of She Looks So Perfect. But anyways, these movies were made in that time period that everyone's like super nostalgic for, so that's very interesting to note, I will say. But her hair is interesting because it almost kind of looks like she has long hair, and she constantly just has it like tucked into her jacket. Like when you put a jacket on and you have long hair and you don't like flip it out, it's like stuck under the collar. Her hair kind of always looks like it's in that perpetual state. So I guess what I mean by that, it's like a little messy, a little slapdash, like clearly she doesn't like do it. She doesn't like, you know, like get up and do her hair every day. It just kind of naturally looks like this. And it almost looks like it was like haphazardly cut. Like I said, there's like some long bits and some short bits. And then it's like a very pale kind of purple color. Something I think the movie tried to do with these characters early on is try and make their colorful hair like what's supposed to be their natural hair. Like they haven't dyed it or anything. It just kind of looks like that. When they were born or whatever, because they were born villain kids. I think it was supposed to be a clear visual distinction between the like kids of Auradon, of the heroes, and then the kids of the villains. I mean, obviously the costuming is a big part of that as well, but that is very obvious. The costuming is painfully on the nose in a way that I think is very fun. They're basically like Marvel and DC characters in their superhero costumes 24/7, you know. It's very, very funny. My theory is that the colors were supposed to look as natural as possible. So the colors aren't super fluorescent. They kind of are like very muted, almost have a similar tone to like what a brown hair or like, you know, lighter blonder hair would look like. Very, very muted, because like natural hair colors aren't like super vivid. They're a little bit more like subdued. So that's what I think they're referencing. It's my opinion on what I think they're referencing in the color. And Mal's hair basically stays that way throughout the entire first movie. All of their characters kind of, you know, because it's the establishing film, they kind of have like a baseline look, you know. So in the second movie is when we get the real change for Mal, and her hair kind of means the most throughout the series. When we start the movie, her hair is blonde. It actually, I think, is what Dove Cameron had her hair like, actually. Maybe it's a little bit lighter through like color grading, or maybe they just like toned it a bit lighter. It's like almost white. It is extremely, extremely blonde. Not a single root seen, by the way, just like freshly bleached blonde hair. And it has like purple and I think green. Am I remembering that right? Are there little pieces of green in the hair? I'm not too sure, but I know for sure that it has like purple ends. Now, the thing that we learned throughout Mal in the first movie is that she does people's hair, because famously the magical barrier that keeps all of the villains on the island also blocks magic, so none of them can do magic and use their magical spells that made them, you know, increase their villainry in the first place and stuff, which is why they're just like boring everyday people on the island, right? And so Mal can do magic, but she just has always lived on the island, so she's never had the ability to. But now that she's, at Auradon, she can do magic. And so she was people were asking her to use her magic to give them hair makeovers and make their hair look nicer. And so that's another thing, how Mal has kind of like this kind of the closest a Disney Channel movie will get to like wild, messy hair, with it just being, having an interesting haircut and just not being like obviously styled. It's clearly like curled a little bit, but it's supposed to look like naturally wavy. So we know already that she can change hair. So when we see her blonde hair, I think the purple ends are obviously supposed to call back to her being Mal, because purple's her color, right? But also my thought was that maybe it tied into like her hair like grew blonde, like she was trying to like convince people that she was always an Auradon prep kid and not a villain kid, because that's kind of the mode she's operating in this early part of the movie, is trying to shed everything that is like villain kid about her, to kind of fit in now that she is Ben's girlfriend, and she like represents basically Auradon, because he is like the king. I think he's the king. He gets officially crowned the king at like 17 years old or something. At the end of the first movie. And so when she has a mental breakdown because she's trying so hard to hide who she is and become a completely different person, when obviously that's a very unhealthy way to treat yourself, she obviously has a breakdown and goes back to the island and feels like, well, I don't belong in Auradon because I can't be who I am, which is a villain kid, because that's wrong and bad, and she doesn't see her true self as worthy, so she tries to pretend to be somebody else, to be an Auradon prep kid, and when she can't do it properly, she just leaves entirely. Also, I guess she leaves her mother in lizard form on the island, because she takes her mother with her, because her mother was turned into a lizard at the end of the first movie. Sorry, somebody with very intense 808s is, I guess, driving by my room right now, so he's probably picking up on the camera. Hopefully they leave soon. But anyways, when she's on the island, she gets her hair changed. She changed her hair back to purple. Now, a thing that I've heard people say that really bugged me, I think I've heard it multiple times, is people go, isn't Mal's whole thing that she can do hair with magic? So why does she need to ask somebody to change her hair? Why does she need to go to a hair salon and get Drizella's daughter, I forget her character's name, but like to get Drizella to change her hair for her? And it's like, y'all need to pay attention. They probably felt so smart for remembering that fact from the first movie, because it doesn't really affect like the lore too much. All it really informs you on is that in the second movie they decided that magic is bad, and so they villainize her for using magic, which is part of like her true self element that she's caught doing, because she can't keep up with like this Auradon prep life that she's trying to live for herself, so she's cheating by using magic. So it's like that was what the setup, I guess, was of her doing people's hair in the first movie, was that like it's not a good thing. Magic is bad and we're trying to phase it out, which is actually something that they're like commenting on in the newer movies, I think. I don't know. Discussion for another day. Maybe that's another podcast episode, how magic plays a role in the Descendants franchise. Remember how I said earlier, there's a barrier around the island that doesn't allow magic. So whenever you go through the barrier and into the island, you go back to the Isle, everything that's magic is done. It's done. So she can't do magic anymore when she's on the Isle. So she can't change her own hair, okay? Because she can't do magic on the island. So that's why she needs to go to the hair salon to get her hair redone. And it goes back to like her natural state. It's a little lighter, I think, than what it originally was in the first movie, but it's still very close to like the closest you could get your mind to understand a natural purple hair color looking like. And she has bangs. Love a good bang moment. I love it when a character doesn't have bangs at the beginning and then eventually gets bangs. This is something I noticed in Good Luck Charlie. In season 2, Bridget Mendler got bangs, and it was very fun to see her have bangs. So anyways, you could maybe read into how the color being slightly lighter and a little bit brighter kind of speaks to like her still feeling like she belongs on the Isle or whatever. And I like that it's long. I forget that the character, this hairstyle with the bang and the long hair is so iconic that I forget that the character like normally has short hair. Like in the first and third movies, her hair is short. It's like a bob pretty much. Maybe like more like a lob, you could maybe call it. So I forget, because this hairstyle is like, when I think of Mal, I think of the second movie, like second hairstyle from her. I don't know why. But I forget that she normally has short hair, which in the third movie, she's back to having her short hair. Now, something that I think a lot of people don't like about the wigs in the third movie is that they all have roots. Now, there's multiple reasons why this is, I bet. One of them is possibly that roots were just trendy at the time. It was like having a shadow root was actually a cool thing in the late 2010s, in the mid to late 2010s. It became like trendy to like have a little bit of roots showing versus just like a stark, you know, harsh like color. So like I remember like the famous Kylie Jenner wig from the time was like that bubblegum or like rose gold. I was gonna say bubblegum pink, but it was more of like a rose gold color, because remember rose gold was the trendy color of the time. It was like a rose gold wig with like brown roots, and like I saw a bunch of people who wore wigs, because they're, you know, people wear wigs even when you're in high school and stuff. Like basically every single person I knew who wore wigs just to school and stuff had a wig exactly like that, rose golden color with roots coming out. It was such a thing. So like that could maybe be the reason why in the third movie all the characters have roots, but I also see it as maybe like, because again, this is a fantastical world and we don't have to get into the genetics of it all. It's just it's just telling a narrative story. It's not like, we don't have to be too serious about it and what this actually means, like I said, like DNA wise or anything, genetics wise. But I interpreted the roots as the characters growing, as their hair color like growing out, almost like the old versions of them are growing out, and then like the new version, which is like the new roots, are like coming in. And maybe it's a natural color. Maybe them living on the island, off the island, I mean, living in Oregon, is making their hair a more natural hair color. This is the reason why we're not talking about the fourth movie, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But the most notable thing that I saw throughout the third movie with Mal, other than the roots, is the fact that her hair becomes blue over time throughout the movie. At the beginning of the film, the purple is a lot more vibrant, a lot more bright, which again is in stark contrast to like the more muted colors that they had throughout the first movies. So it's a very bright purple, but it's also like very blue leaning. The previous purples were more like pink leaning, but these purples have a lot more blue present within them. And over time, I start to notice little blue streaks in her hair. And obviously that's because we now know who her father is, which is Hades, and Hades has the blue hair in the movie, which is of course supposed to pay homage to the hair flames, right, from Hercules. So again, like logically this makes no sense. Since he's always been her father, it would make sense that like maybe she would always have blue streaks in her natural purple hair. So why is it only showing up now? Because it's telling a story. That's why. It doesn't make any actual logical sense. And also I do agree that the wigs sometimes can look a bit cheap. But I do think this is my favorite Mal hair. Well, my favorite is definitely the bangs with the long. My second favorite is like the really blue looking bob with the roots. So I just realized I really had a lot to say about Mal, apparently. So let's kind of breeze through Evie, because her hair does not change as much, because she's not as much of a central character as Mal is. Evie, throughout the first two movies, essentially has the same hair, which is that more muted blue color, but she notably has a braided crown. Like they do like this, I don't know if it's like actually possible to do with hair growing in your head, or if you need like an extension or whatever, because it's a wig, so like they can do whatever they want. But she has like this braided crown, which is really, really cool, and obviously leans into her character of like her mother telling her you have to be a queen, you know, you have to, looks and being pretty is like the main thing, so you have to like really hyper focus on your looks. So her hair is always like styled, like notably with the braids, compared to Mal, who has kind of what Disney Channel is comfortable with doing as wild hair, right? Evie's is more like styled, and the braid crown, I think, is actually directly mentioned in the second movie, how she like started the braid crown trend or whatever in Ordon. We don't see anyone with braided crowns in Ordon, but we can just assume that people are doing it, like the background characters that we don't see. In the second movie, she has this insane side part, which I love, but I can understand people thinking looks a little bit weird. And also, it is gelled the house down. That shit is concrete on her head. But she also has the braided crown, although it's a little bit less ornate, maybe speaking to how she's a little bit more grounded of a character in the second movie. And in the third movie, we again have the roots. We have the roots coming out of her hair, and it's a lot longer, and it's like not really curled anymore. It's more straight. I think the third movie's hair is the most satisfying looking hair to me, in my personal opinion. I think I like the like really straight hair that's really long, and I just feel like that's a nice look for Sophia Carson, I guess. So that's why I like it. And again, the roots, I explained why they might have roots, and I'm fine with it. I know a lot of people don't like the roots, but I like them. I also controversially like Audrey's hair. I know a lot of people don't like Audrey's hair and they think it's bad. I'm on a different team. I like Audrey's hair. Well, in the first movie, obviously, it's just her natural hair, so like that's fine, you know, whatever. Again, the Auradon kids all have natural looking hair colors, like they just have like the actor's natural hair, and the villain kids are supposed to have colored hair. But we, on YouTube actually, there was like a little, because she wasn't in the second movie, so she's only in the first and third movies. In the third movie, we see that she has blonde hair with like these very pastel blue and pink streaks, which I like because there's a reference to Sleeping Beauty with the blue dress and the pink dress, right? And also her outfit is a lot more like signaling to like the dress that Aurora wears. Like it's very much like calling to that. So I appreciate that as well, because in the early movies, the first movie, she was just like dressed like generic girl character. I know she was wearing pink and blue, so that was at least like somewhat of a, you know, call-in, but like actually giving her real costuming other than just like probably stuff they pulled off the rack was very cool and very nice. And obviously it's because her character like matters in the third movie, but I like the blonde hair. Again, that very like icy white blonde hair was very trendy at the time. Very, very trendy. And then the roots coming in as well. The roots are a lot lighter though. They're not like her natural hair color. They're not super dark. And we know that she dyed her hair like this in universe. There was a little YouTube video that I just previously started talking about and then got distracted. But they had uploaded a YouTube video basically explaining where she was and that she was going to be back in the third movie for people. So it's a little bit of extra bonus content. But yeah, she's at the salon getting her hair done. So we know that like they're not just changing the lore to be like, this is her natural hair now. But I think it's cool. And then her villain hair, when she turns into the villain and she gets the evil queen's staff. Not the evil queen. Maleficent. It's Maleficent's staff, I'm pretty sure. When they get Maleficent's staff and she becomes evil, I like the hair. It's obviously a lot more vibrant in color. The only problem I have with it is that the like magenta pink and then like the blue inner color, it can, when it blends, it reads a little purple. And maybe that's a call out to Mal a little bit, but I don't like that. I think I would prefer if the colors were a lot more stark, as like pink and blue, you know? I don't really like the blending and the meshing of to make it look kind of purple-y. But I do like the costumes they made for her because they really do call to the classic Aurora dress in Sleeping Beauty. Also, Sleeping Beauty is my favorite out of all of the animated like Disney princess movies. So I do like that the main characters are the descendants. They're the descendants of the characters in Sleeping Beauty, because that is my favorite Disney movie out of all of the animated movies. I would say that's my number one. So I appreciate that. Also, let me know in the comments below, this is such an offhanded thing, but the whole Disney princess branding, right? There's like the mainline princesses. Were you like, if you were somebody who like grew up with Disney princess marketing or branding or whatever, were you ever like assigned a Disney princess? Because I was actually assigned Aurora by my mom. My mom just like bought me a bunch of Aurora stuff when I was like a little infant and hadn't even seen the movie. And then like the movie just happened to be my favorite Disney princess movie. So that was like really cool and kind of serendipitous, actually. So yeah, my favorite Disney princess is Aurora, even though she's like not even a character, but that's a discussion for another day. So let's talk about Uma real quick, because she's the last character I think that has notable hair. I love her hair in the first movie. I feel like it was, or the first movie she's in, which is Descendants 2. I feel like it was extremely iconic. People loved pointing out how iconic her hair was, and that's because it is. The light blue and kind of like seafoam green like braids is really, really cool. And notably, this is probably just because this is how the hairstyle was, because it's not a wig. As far as I'm aware, in the first movie, it's not a wig. China Anne McClain just actually had her hair in box braids like that. You can see her natural hair, like the dark, her dark black hair, like braided in, obviously, with the extension color, which is like the blues, the different turquoises and blues. And to me, I'm gonna say that lore-wise, that is because she's like kind of further along on her acceptance journey than the other villain kid characters are. Same thing with Carlos. I didn't mention Carlos. I didn't mention the guys at all because in my opinion, their hair doesn't really matter because it basically stays the same throughout the entire film. But Carlos has dark roots and then like white hair on top. It's kind of like the modern reimagined version of the split black and white hair. It's like split black and white, but it's like the roots and then the grow out, right? So like characters like Carlos and Uma have kind of like grown and evolve as characters. They're a little bit further along on their acceptance journey, maybe, of accepting who they are. It might be a stretch, but that's what I'm going to say it is, because we see the black hair start and then turn into the turquoises and the greens in Uma's hair. And then in the third movie, the second movie that she's in, which is Descendants 3, the wig could be better. But we see that she has, is it cornrows, I think it's called? She has cornrows, and then like it's just like loose hair. And there's even more dark hair in the top. And the bottom is like growing out to like the turquoisey kind of color she had. So to me, like she has even more dark, like a lot more dark roots than the other characters do. So to me, because Uma as a character has never wanted to live in Auradon, she's been offered from Ben to like, come to Auradon, and she's always been like, no. Because they kind of made a little bit of a love triangle between the three of them with Uma, Ben, and Mal. And she's always been like, no, my home is the Isle. I want to stay on the Isle. Kind of showing how the different perspectives of the different characters. There's a lot to get into with how the villain kids are represented and how the Isle, the barriers opened. Discussion for another day, I promise. We're here to talk about the hair though. But she's always been more accepting of who she is. And so maybe that's why her color has kind of like really starting to grow out more, and like it shows the evolution of the characters. It is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like the dark roots show the characters evolving into like their most grown-up versions of themselves, and Uma is doing it faster than the other characters. And you can toss Carlos into there because why not? And we don't have to talk about Jay because his hair is not different. It's just Boo Boo Stewart's actual hair as far as I'm aware. So I don't know how much there is to discuss with Jay. I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. Descendants 4, I don't like that Cinderella's daughter has blue hair and that they give Cinderella blue hair, played by Brandy, who I love. I'm glad that they got her in this franchise. She's great. Because again, it was only the villain kids who were supposed to have colored hair, as in like non-natural colored hair. I think they would have been just fine if they didn't give her colored hair, because it would again visually better contrast the two characters in the movie of Red and Cinderella's daughter. She has a good name. I'm sorry that I've forgotten it. I'm blanking on it. I'm recovering from being sick. That's my excuse. But yeah, that's my final big problem, and why I just didn't want to discuss Descendants 4 at all, because ruins my whole everything about this topic. But anyways, that's all. My voice is sounding more hoarse as this video goes on because I've been talking for an hour straight. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. We're gonna get back on track now with an episode every other week. Sorry, I basically took like the entire month of February off. We're gonna tighten up and get better at it. So yes, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.